Man, what I'm saying is that there are known knowns and that there are known unknowns. But there are also unknown unknowns. Things we don't know that we don't know. Yo, how's it going, my VVOGs, my Omi homies, and everybody else out there in YouTube land? It's your bromy, the Gale, back at it again with another Clubhouse chat video. Alright, so we got a good one for you today. You can treat this video as an audiobook. There's not much to watch, but there's a bunch to listen and learn from. So last night I was hanging out in Orange Bag Lady's Twitter Spaces called Chatty Tuesdays, which she hosts every Tuesday with her co-host Crypto Khaki. So yeah, go subscribe to Orange Bag Lady. She has a YouTube channel, and be on the lookout for her Tuesday chats. But due to technical difficulties, it got moved to Clubhouse, the Clubhouse app, where Frank Kozik dropped by, and he dropped a wealth of knowledge, and everybody else was chiming in, and there was a lot to be learned. So I'm just gonna share a piece of that chat with you guys. There was a lot of NFT talk, crypto talk, and just future talk. Very interesting stuff. So that's what this video is going to be about. You can listen to it on your car ride home, or from work, or while you're cleaning. It's just a good conversation to hear. So that's what this video is going to be. And without further ado, let's just breeze into it.
And here's the other thing about Veve, okay? It's not like a lot of these other platforms just showed up in the last 8 months because, like, it was time. But I had my first conversation about what they're doing with them 3 years ago when they were beginning to go out in the world. So they did it the right way. They had an idea. I think they patented some technology, right? They started a coin. They went out and they raised money. Like, they have big investors, okay? They got a big investment to roll up, and they leveraged their coin to roll up. And they did that for a couple of years, and then they were able then to actually, like, have a coherent build strategy, and then they built their platform. And I know they have milestones for performance upgrades, infinitely, right? Because they want everything. And, like, as an artist, I'm going to keep pushing them to try to make my stuff more interesting too, right? Like, have more features.
Yeah.
And they're not saying no. They're like, yes, we'll get there. So that's the thing. It's like,
yes, we
these
want to
guys
make that
have a
fucking thing with a rocket. Remember you
so
saying
think
you
about
wanted
it.
to
For
put a
all of
rocket
us,
on your
it's been
ladder?
for all of us, it's been a few months, right? For these guys, they're thinking about this probably 5 years ago, and then, like, slowly, and then they started doing it 3 years ago. So, like, in this space, that's like decades.
Yeah. And how did you feel whenever you first had that meeting 3 years ago? How did
Well,
you
I'd heard
feel?
a lot. So I had just come off all these runs of, like, people trying to get me involved in, like, video games and video game apps and all this fucking shit. And of course, none of it went anywhere, right?
Okay.
And when they
Right.
came around initially, I was like, they were buying my toys from my booth and stuff. And, I listened to them. I was real nice. And, I listened to their rap. I didn't quite understand it. To me, I had sort of, like, linked it to this other shit that had never seemed to work out. But I kept in friendly contact. And then, last year, when this all started up during the pandemic, I was like, fuck, this is what those guys were talking about. So and they had sent me a contract in the meantime. So I just basically, I was like, okay, dude, I understand now. I'm ready. They're like, good, let's go. But it took me
Crazy.
having to, start doing my own FTs to really understand the value of it.
Like, if you think about it from, like, first principle thinking, like, a basic level, like, we've been exchanging actual hard cash for in-game items, like the evolution of that. Like, we have crypto. Like, I personally have, like, a 7-figure income from mining crypto with solar panels, and by the end of 2022, we're going to be completely green. And my background's in real estate.
Crazy, man.
That's awesome.
Wow. Holy shit.
Like, I have
so Conrad, so what do you think about the meta idea that this is an opportunity to create another planet's worth of commercial activity without degrading our current one too much? Do you think that's a valid idea?
I think that you have two options, right? Go outside from, and say, like, if you look at what Boston Dynamics doing, coupled with SpaceX, and the idea that SpaceX and NASA want to actually mine an asteroid, that solves sort of like the resource problem, and then you have to deal with energy, right? And until we have, like, a net positive fusion reaction, then it has to be solar, geothermal, and then like the doomsday scenario, I guess, if that's not enough electricity, then obviously it's nuclear, people. And nuclear can be clean-ish, and I don't want to say that that's good enough, because it's not. We can do better. But truthfully, we can generate enough electricity to handle economic growth, economic opportunity. If you think about technology from the standpoint of like a 500-year timeline, right? We live so much better than the kings from 500 years ago, even most people that are considered to be in poverty. And we can have that type of, hopefully, exponential leap. Now, I don't want to ramble, guys, because I could go on and I don't want to dominate the floor. But I think that there's
We love it, bro.
assets, because let's just again follow it. Like if you think about paper and degradation over time, and if
Yes, man.
way over time, like say 100 years, right? Who knows what advancements will be made in medicine, but let's say 100 years. Um, and you now have people who want to transmit goods who are like literally on the moon. They're not shipping fucking baseball cards, bro. They're doing NFTs. I think that's the future, truthfully. And I think like you guys have an opportunity. I'm trying to learn here, so I'm going to sit back and listen.
Oh man, that was incredible, because that's definitely
Well, I mean, the thing is, I've been
something that
reading
needs.
about these concepts for like 30 years. There's a really great book from the 80s by this author called K.W. Jeter, and it's called Farewell Horizontal. And if you ignore sort of like the world building that goes on in there, the society that's on there is really prescient of what's starting to happen now, where basically everything is on an internet type thing. Okay, this is before the internet. An internet type thing was public. Uh, people do work, individual people. Like
Yo,
it follows a guy who's a tattooist, right? And all his credits are logged on. If they capture interesting things on video, they're paid for it on these like information feeds. It's a really interesting book. You should look it up. The
Definitely.
guy, the
What was
guy
the
was
name
What book is
again?
that?
it's called Farewell Horizontal. So between that and Neuromancer, these ideas have been around for 30 years, right? It's just
Yes,
now the
dude.
technology is finally making it possible. And what I find super interesting on Clubhouse is like last night, there was a guy from Ghana in the room, and there was a guy from Iraq in the room, and there was a guy, and they were all being active and making money selling NFTs. That's a historical first, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so there
Oh.
is opportunity for people that are not in the Western societies to take advantage of this if, you know, ostensibly they're on, in the top of their local society, but that tends to trickle down over time, right? They make money, they're going to spend money locally, and everybody's going to prosper. So I think that this is an interesting way to maybe bootstrap into, like Conrad was saying, like a different level. And as far as the energy thing, I think if commercial space travel becomes feasible, which it will, all that kind of like energy production stuff can happen in orbit. You can like have mirrors focusing sunlight onto transmitters. You could eventually put nuclear power on the moon and get it. There's a lot of ways to offshore the detrimental aspects if we can actually like be in orbit like on a regular commercial basis. That is also a huge plus, right?
So on
So
that energy talk, I know there's a crypto called Energy Web Token, and they're looking to like offset the energy. So on like blockchains, for example, because it's like Bitcoin that takes up a lot of energy. So there's ways that they're gonna like tax like businesses and it'd be like an energy tax, just like Elon Musk does. You know how that's how Tesla was staying profit for a while. So that's another way where they can mitigate the amount of energy that we use through paying for it as a tax.
Yeah, there's got to be new ways of facilitating all of these new technologies, because, like you say, like I was talking to a artist who's a friend of mine, and I was telling her about NFTs and everything that was possible with them, and she asked about the environmental impact straight off the bat, and I was kind of like, we're in this kind of crossroadsy kind of position where we're kind of reconsidering all of the things that we like, how toys are made and the materials, and we're kind of wanting to move forward into this new digital era. So new ways of facilitating this is necessary, for the longevity of the project. It needs to happen, like, for sure.
And as we were mentioning in the Twitter Spaces earlier, I know that you guys were talking about, the future implications of the technology in 50 years, 100 years from now. Like, I think we're just touching the tip of an iceberg. The internet's only been around for 25, 30 years at a full commercial pace. I remember dial up with AOL, so I think what
Yeah,
we're going
man.
to see in the very, very near future, just in 10-year time, is going to be exponential to our growth, especially the way that Elon Musk has been moving and a whole bunch of other philanthropists who want to do good things for the world. Like, the digital world is the way to go. There's no more real estate ever being made. And as, Frank mentioned, it's it's endless. The possibilities are absolutely mind-boggling just from going from somewhere with no airspace, for example. In New York, you can't build so high because it's going to obstruct someone's view. You're not going to have that obstacle in the
Mm,
virtual world.
mm. That's a good point.
Virtual worlds on top of each other too. Like you can have different realms, if you will, or whatever. Like it's
Yeah,
really
go through a
limitless.
portal.
Oh my god,
Yeah, yeah,
realms?
like there's so like think about it, like there's so many metaverses, like uh the
And
last
coexist
Spider-Man
in the same
movie.
location.
Like you realize that there's 100 different Spider-Mans because they're all in a different metaverse, but they're all connected and they all intertwined in that one movie. Just like in the
Mm.
Loki series by Marvel, um, there was like 17 different Lokis that all got banished to this random realm, but they're all Lokis from different metaverses. It's the
Bro, you
same.
be
It's the
Mm.
same
spoiling the
concept.
show.
I'm
Ah,
sorry.
fuck.
I'm sorry, bro. Like
Yeah,
I
man,
didn't.
I am
Shit,
I didn't
dude.
really know what to
crying.
tell
God
you.
I
Like
am
damn, Arnie.
crying right now.
Oh,
Bro,
fuck.
I'm sorry,
he
guys.
did that before with
Ah,
another show. I'm like,
fuck.
bro, don't go
I'm
into the
sorry.
shows,
I'm
bro.
sorry.
And
No, no,
Just
shit.
no. You good? You
Breaking
in it?
Bad,
You
man.
in it?
it's just so relevant to what's happening right now with the VV-verse. Like honestly, like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Yeah, man.
just
Well,
what
here's a
it
quick thing.
releases.
You can put space vehicles in space using something that like kind of the best description of it is like a railgun. At the correct angle, it can be done, and then you don't have all that fossil fuel whole thing. You're not making a giant pile of smoke, and you're not having to create all that
Right.
thrust.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So then it
There's
becomes just a matter of like gathering the energy to do it. So like what Frank's
Beyond
talking
that,
about.
there's a theoretical concept that'll work if we can develop a material with enough tensile strength. Something called a space elevator. And what you do with a space elevator is it's on an equatorial orbit, so it's stable. And you assemble like a receiving platform in orbit, right? And you start manufacturing a cable, okay? And the cable feeds down, and eventually connects with the surface of the Earth. And because you're on an equatorial orbit, there's no problem, okay? And then
oh.
you can build, like transport vehicles that grip this cable and power all the way up into orbit, and then you don't have to develop the speed necessary, right,
Mm.
to
Fucking
do
hell.
escape velocity, right? It's called the space elevator. So the only issue is like, this is why there's so much development into like nanomolecules and carbon fiber technology in a way, because like theoretically, eventually they're going to get that dialed in so much that they'll be able to construct those cables. Everything else we can do now, we just can't build the cable. We don't have the material. So at some point, that
Wow.
material, they're actively trying to make it. And then you're not expending any kind of like propellants. Those vehicles could be electrical, feeding off of an orbital grid
Well,
system,
you could also
all kinds of
power
shit like that.
you could also power it off the static electricity that
Right,
accumulates
the
on the cable
differential,
itself. Yeah.
right, and the differential and atmospheric layers and all that kind of stuff. So at some point, that's the dream system, to get mass, bulk, and weight from orbit. It's easy to get something to orbit from outside, but between orbit and the Earth, which is like only 50 miles, that's the hard part. So that would be the most effective technology to make that tunnel happen, to build that bridge. You look
Wow.
it up. Look up space elevators. Like it's theoretically completely possible once we have that material developed
It's like
for
a
the cable.
sci-fi. It sounds like a sci-fi fucking like engineering
Okay,
masterpiece whole
Well,
your
situation.
i your that iPhone that you have in your hand, or that Samsung, has as much computing power as like a 1960s Cray supercomputer, if not more.
Mm.
Like you have more computing power in your hand than the whole world did at some point, and
It's
everybody's got one of
crazy
those
to think
phones. Like
about, man.
if
It's
we can
crazy.
survive environmental collapse, which is a whole other issue, technology will help us achieve these goals.
Mm.
Yeah. You know, what's weird is that when you was explaining all of that stuff, and don't take this the wrong way. To me, when listening to you explain something like that, it's so far from the normal person's thought process because I consider myself just a normal person. I'm on surface level with a lot of this shit. It sounded like a bunch of bullshit because as far as the technology link with just that making that cable, I guess for me it doesn't even like it just it's and I guess that just shows how close we are to making that link because you're explaining it in a way where it has you excited about it, and I know you're telling the truth about it. And I'm gonna go and look at this because there's a whole nother set of things that are operating in the background that I
Mm.
don't even know about. Just like kind of like
Mm.
NFTs. Like when I heard somebody talking about NFTs, it was the same thing. And the blockchain, it just sounded like a bunch of bullshit to the regular common mind.
Like the
That
layman, yeah, like the layman,
right, you
like.
know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And then you guys are out here in a whole nother stratosphere
It's
with
like a
this
sci-fi.
stuff,
It's like a
man.
sci-fi
Yeah,
realm,
kind of like
man.
so. I
It's
appreciate you saying that,
insane.
and hopefully you didn't take that the wrong way when I said that. It sounded like, to me it just sounded like, yeah, what the it shit just sound crazy, man.
Happening.
It's
It's
hard.
just been
It's hard
happening
to
for the
get your
last
head around,
300
like.
years.
Yeah, straight
If
up.
you chart the course of an average human's life experience over the last 300 years, it's crazy. Things are developing super fast
Mm.
Yeah,
because technology is exponential. It's not linear
yeah,
growth; it's exponential growth. One thing turns into eight, eight turns into 64. That kind of a thing. So
I
yeah,
got you. I got you.
Mm.
if
Yeah,
we can
man,
survive
golly.
without a huge war or environmental catastrophe, the
Right.
technology
Which is
will
what
eventually work.
let me ask you. I would love to get your thought on this as an artist. Um, and Mitch and anybody else in here can chime in. But something me and Orange Bag Lady has talked about is how amazing all of this technology is, and do we think that there will be a wave um, of people that are affected by it negatively mentally as far as let's talk about as far as in the virtual reality world. And if anybody's put on a set of virtual, I know you have Kozik and a lot of other people in here. If you've ever put on a set of VR headsets, when you put it on, it's not like how you thought it would be. It actually puts you in this actual
Mm.
world. So mentally, when I took the VR off after playing it, I just rode like a roller coaster, and one was like swimming, trying to get away from a shark, and it's just in the middle of the mall. I put it on, it was the craziest thing, and but when I took it off, it took me a while to adjust to get my
Mm.
bearings back into the reality world, um, and I see that as because people will be able to the same way that they're making NFTs, they will be able to make money inside of these virtual worlds. They will have shops set up inside of these virtual worlds. I see this thing with called Ethermon, where they're in Decentraland with their shop set up, and all they do is
And
sell candy
yeah,
to
crypto
the
voxels as well. That all the guys, these guys are
you know what I'm
on.
saying?
It's actually been
Looks
going
like
on
different.
for a while online. I mean, it started with like Second Life and stuff. I know people that made a ton of money in Second
Right.
Life.
Yeah.
So I
So
think
is
the
that
issue of like the being able to go back and forth. I think there's a couple of things. I think that some people will become totally addicted. So I
Mm.
think I could see at some point there being a feedback system where a software algorithm can tell that you're getting too stressed out or you've been on too long, and
Mm.
it'll
Oh, that's
gently like
sick.
phase you out and go, okay, time for a break. That would
That's
be, I think,
cool.
damn,
beneficial,
bro?
right?
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
something that
Hey, so
senses like waves, like a pulse or something like that. Because now you think,
already exists. So
huh?
I used to build virtual reality and augmented reality stuff. there's sensors. There's actually a game that uses your stress as the controller. So to climb a ladder, you have to stress yourself out. To go down
And
a
it can
rope, you have
track
to
your
calm down.
you can
Yeah.
have you can have a couple of pixels on the screen track your eye movements and like map out like when it senses like fatigue and your eye movements, all kinds of things.
Wow. Holy
So,
What
shit,
the
that would,
man.
fuck,
so I
bro?
could see that would be one way to help like a health addiction issue to being online all the
Mm.
Right.
time.
Okay.
And I think that the big problem I think is going to be accessibility, right? So there's still probably, 2/3 or more of the people on the world don't have accessibility. Some of those issues are political, right? So who
Mm.
knows how that gets solved, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Some of those issues are financial, like, there's kids in New Sudan who, what the fuck is a computer, right? At
Yep.
some
Amen.
point,
Amen.
hopefully the technology gets inexpensive enough to filter down to like, the smallest group of people wherever, right? And then the adults, some adults will group to it, but it's the little kids. Like if the little 4 to 6 year old kids get a hold of that shit, even if it's like a rudimentary tablet, they can learn how to navigate a world because all the
Bro.
UIs will
Yes.
eventually be like signage, right? There'll be international language user interface going on. That's one thing where I think the internet really lags behind is everyone's just they're trying to do really good interface, but it's like in a language. They need to go the IKEA route, I think, for interface. I think there needs to be a sort of a leveling interface effect in like web design. So like
Mm.
somebody from Japan can navigate an English language website and vice versa without like
Yeah.
a lot of clumsiness, right? All
Mm.
that will come at some point, I think. Now, the ultimate threat is once you develop this huge system, like in all the movies, and everyone's into it, okay, someone manages to assume control and they have negative motivations, then, that's, how does that work, right?
Mm. Bro,
So
yes.
there are lots of challenges, but at the same time, it's where technology is going. So,
Amen. Yeah, this is 100%. Like I was bringing up, is it George Orwell and is it Aldous or Albus Huxley? And their two books on the idea, obviously with take these ideas and novels with a pinch of salt, but 1985, and I'm not sure what the Huxley novel was, but these like ideas of where our society is eventually going to kind of end up. Obviously they're not, I'm not saying that those things are 100%, but like the surveillance state, the like the like some of the over, I don't know, just some of the themes. And I was saying, do you guys have you guys seen Charlie Brooker's Black Mirror? It's like a TV series. It's like an English TV series about like technology and the integration of it into future. Obviously, again, it's a fictional show, but he touches on sort of controversial topics, and yeah, I think to be aware of where we're going. But again, it kind of comes down to who's in the driving seat of this kind of next evolution that we're all going into.
Right. Rough. Rough.
It's
But
crazy, man. It's
for
crazy.
for me, I'm excited for it. I think that the awareness of it, and you know, understanding that there is data out there already, and knowing how to navigate through it, man, tempering, you know, your time in it, like the whole. I didn't even think about
The
them
sensor
having the
thing.
technology to. Yeah, what the fuck?
Brilliant, brilliant.
That's
That's
so
that's
I'm not
good.
even I'm not even worried now. They see I'm stressed out, they just shut it off. Shut it down, you know what I mean? That's pretty big, man. So VV verse, I'm ready. I'm ready for it, man.
It's
I'm ready
pretty.
for it, bro.
It's crazy, and to have their insight into the whole thing is just, you know, it's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, but sure, man. I don't even know how to follow that. Like you
I know. How do you
fucking go
top
from
that?
fucking
You
space
fucking
ladders
top that.
and we jump back to Spider-Man time. Get yourself some Spider-Man, guys.
Yeah, there's
About them
no
FAs.
fucking there's no fucking comparison, dude. You just can't. Like, I'm still trying to process. I'm still Still
Oh
trying to
man,
process that.
that's cool. And so, y'all see numbers and stuff with Veve because I've heard this come up a couple of times. Actually, a guy came onto Twitter and was like, he said he's been in the collecting space. There's no way Veve is moving as many units as they say, and he was basically saying that they were lying about the numbers,
Right.
which we know to be true. It wouldn't be anything that they would do with the amount of pressure from all these other IPs that are leaning on them. I know they're operating in a chill kind of way. So to see y'all stuff sell out as fast as it did with as many units as y'all had, the buzz is this not a normal um, thing within that industry? Like, do y'all not have units that sell out like that in the physical world, or is there not any other? Because Top Shots do pretty decent though, right? I would think the numbers on Top Shots are pretty decent compared to what Veve is pushing out as well.
I wouldn't have a feckin' clue. I know that the Gale and there's a couple of other folks in here that deal with Top Shots, but I wouldn't have a feckin' clue.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder how many packs because it seemed like Top Shots put out a lot of packs and they sell. There's all. I mean, but they have the waiting list and all of that stuff. But
Mm.
all of that shit, all that talk that he's talking about is that don't do nothing but make me more bullish on Veve. The fact that they bullish on Veve makes me more bullish on it. They got to be doing something right. Keep landing
Dude,
what
a
they
hundred
have landed.
percent. The way those guys are talking about it, they're two really different perspectives as well. Like Kozik having been involved, you know, fucking 3 years back,
Yeah.
and how they like fuck.
Did you guys see that Marvel posted on Instagram? That kind of blew my mind. It was like over 200,000 likes on the Spider-Man
Really?
post. Yeah, so like I think
What?
that kind of pushed it to like people to buy the 32,000 units. So
Ah.
I think that's what kind of
Yeah,
put it
because
over.
cause going down a stretch, man, those last units went by pretty fast. I saw somebody on Twitter counting it down. It kind of felt like back in late March when everything started to fly off the shelves on Veve, and you would see these comments on the Veve app on these
Yeah.
collectibles, and they'd be like, only 2,000 left, only 750 left, 500, and then they'll move on. What's the next one? Oh, the next one to sell out is going to be this one, and then everybody go to that comment thread. So I kind of felt it like that because even the Batman Who Laughs, those still kind of hung around for a long time. Even the Batgirl hung around for a long time. I'm not even sure if it's sold out. I think it's sold out. But for for uh, for that to move that fast, that makes sense. I wouldn't mind looking and seeing what time that they posted. What day did they post that on
Yeah,
Marvel?
I don't know. You gotta check back up. Like you know the time, not the day really. I think it was like literally did it on the day or the day before. But yeah, like
Right.
that's crazy that Marvel is getting involved. Like every brand now that we work with, are they going to also post on their social or what? How does that work? What do you guys think?
I I would think so. Well, I mean, Kozik posted on his. Ron English posted on his. Tokidoki posted on theirs.
True.
Um, DC actually gave away collectibles
Yeah, I
that
remember that.
that were gifted. So I think to that just goes to show you how powerful Marvel is, man. Like Marvel pushes the fucking needle, bro. So I pulled up my phone that morning, and Marvel was on the Google. Like when you go to Google and you go to put something in Google, I see
Mhm.
Spider-Man sitting down at the bottom, and it was Google had pinned that Marvel article, and it was like the second article from the top of where you go to search at. So think of how many people saw that Spider-Man. You see a Spider-Man fan, they click on it. NFT. Let me click on this, and
Wow.
that. Yeah, Marvel got when Marvel moves these other big companies to mention them, when they get clout off of mentioning Marvel and they're already billion-dollar companies, like that lets you know, man, like Marvel push push pushes it, bro. So, and when you got somebody that has that much, power within this space, retail and collectibles and stuff like that. Think of how many people, how many of these other IPs that was kind of sitting back, you know, watching, and then they see Marvel come on and see the deal that Marvel got with everything, and see Marvel sell out and see the hype behind it. That, maybe that was, you know, a vouch for Veve,
Mhm.
that had a lot of people that may have been on the fence that maybe Veve, because I don't think Veve is out there having to run down and chase down anybody now. I think they pretty much have shown what they are capable of doing, and like Mitch, was saying earlier, that they're probably getting a lot of calls from a lot of different people, and that just kind of goes to show the dedication and the vision that these guys have and had with Alfred Kahn, because they all had the same vision, Dan and David and Alfred, and they went out and it was pitching this 3 years ago, getting phones hung up and shut down. And think about the dedication. This is the people that's running the company that we are, investing in. It just makes it for an easy investment for me when I hear stories like this, and then now to see it, now they're in the position that they wanted to, even in a better position than they probably thought they would be at this particular point in time. Because I think we're
100%.
ahead
They
of
thought they were
schedule.
gonna have
You know what I'm saying?
30,000 users. Now they're at like 400,000 users. So they're way
Insane.
ahead,
Insane.
way ahead where they wanted to be.
Yeah. So when you look at that, man, and then, and not even, and the most, the fucking impressive thing about it is, and I think this is what a lot of these other projects are starting to try and do, is mimic what Veve did to create the community that Veve has. They was able to grow, and they even said it in the AMA. Why would we go out there and put, you know, X amount of dollars in marketing when y'all are basically over marketing us now? We can't even handle the amount of people that the community is bringing in. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? Like, so,
yeah, they're kind of creating a problem because all these NFTs are selling like in seconds,
yeah,
like
they
God,
can't even keep.
I know,
They've
and
been
they
trying
can't
to
keep
keep
up.
they're
up with it.
trying to
So
trying to leave people like stuff in the
So
store for people to buy, and we're like, nah, nope,
yeah, so I
yeah,
had
nope.
an idea though for like new users. Like when you get on the app and like you want an NFT, you want something to play with in VR or AR. I feel like everyone should just get like a basic
like
VV
Terra
NFT
Virtual does. Yeah,
that
Terra
they can
Virtual
play
does
with
that.
in AR or whatever. And like I feel like
Yeah.
that would give new users time to play
Oh yeah,
with VR.
they got those already, bro.
What are you
Called
talking about then?
Myrmeconos and Cryptos, bro.
Well, like are they expensive right now? Like do you have to buy on a
Nah, like
secondary market?
$7, $8, bro.
On the
You
Come
can get
secondary
on,
them
market?
Kaki. A
on the
crypto
second
came for
day.
a new user?
You
Are you
know what I'm
crazy,
saying?
man?
The
You
common
went on day
DeLorean,
one
you know
or
what I
what?
mean?
The
Spend
common
the
delivery.
$8.
So that's the video, my friends. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the conversation and learned something, feel free to leave a like for your bromy to help me out in the YouTube algorithms, and share it with somebody who you think might need to learn or expand their mind a bit regarding NFTs and crypto. So yeah, that was a very interesting conversation. I definitely learned a lot. I hope you did as well. And yeah, with that being said, nobody in that conversation are financial advisors, and neither am I. These are all just opinions and theoretical concepts. So take everything that was said and that I'm saying with a grain of salt, if you would. So yeah, I think tomorrow or today we should be getting the next Marvel characters that will be dropped on the Veve app. So I'm looking forward to that. Can't wait. I've been saving my gems for this very moment. I hope it's Iron Man personally with photon blasters or something like that. But anyway, thank you again for watching, and I will catch you in my next video. And until then, peace out and hodl strong. Later.